Hey guys, welcome in. Rob Kendall Show. Hope you're having a great Monday. Thanks for spending it with us, man. We've got a barn burner of a show for you today. Coming up in just a little bit, Tom Lobianco is going to be with us. He is the freelance journalist who broke the story last year about alleged allegations involving artificial intelligence pornography being shared in the lieutenant governor's office. We know, of course, since then, there's been a grand jury looking into this, also ghost employment allegations in the lieutenant governor's office. And in light of the very quiet and meticulous way Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears went about getting to the point of charging Du Bois County Sheriff Tom Kleinhelter with nobody knowing about it, we're going to touch base with Lobianco on what he's hearing may be going on with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office involving their investigation into Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith and his office. Plus, the body cam footage. Lobianco has viewed all 20 hours of the body cam footage involving the raid, the search of the home of Life Church lead pastor Nathan Peternell. Of course, his adult son, Jonathan Peternell, pleading guilty, now in prison, serious crimes against children. And we're going to talk about what appears to be a blatant attempt to deceive the people of Life Church about letting them know what was going on, and the employees, many of the employees at Life Church. That's coming up in just a little bit. Also later on in the program, WTHI, the voice of the Wabash Valley, Ben Verbanic, WTHI Television, will be with us. He's going to give us a little more in-depth analysis on something we're about to go into to start our show today, which is a potential bribe from the White House and the governor's office to get a state Senate candidate out of the race, plus a massive, massive data center planned, the data center of all data centers, final boss of data centers planned out in Sullivan County. We'll talk about that and a whole bunch more. But first, couple of housekeeping items. First of all, want to thank the very generous people who went over to robkendallshow.com over the weekend, robkendallshow.com. Hit the support button. Man, some really generous people over the weekend. Nicholas, Andrew, and Susan, thank you to you three for supporting Rob Kendall Show. If you haven't done it yet, if you like what we do, you want to be a part of it, you can head over to robkendallshow.com. Of course, over there, we've also got the live link. We've got all the on-demand podcast platforms. We've got articles. We've got articles written from our favorite transcripts, our favorite segments each day, and that support button all available at robkendallshow.com. And thank you to each of you, many of you, hundreds of you now over the past 6 weeks who have hit that support button at robkendallshow.com. Jason and I very much appreciate that. A couple of other things you can do to help us grow the show. Nobody's doing local news, politics, and government like us. Indiana news, Indiana politics, Indiana government. First of all, if you haven't, hit that little thumbs up button. Let us know you like what we're doing. Let us know if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that little thumbs up button. Let us know you like the show. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. That really helps us grow the program. And last but certainly not least, share the feed. If you got a Facebook account, if you got a Twitter account, share the feed. Let people know that we are here. Let people know that you are watching us. Man, the numbers were gangbusters last week. The numbers were awesome. Guys, we are now averaging over 10,000 viewers. That's just on YouTube. 10,000 viewers a week. The average time spent viewing the program, well over 40 minutes. That doesn't include the thousands of people that are listening to us on demand, on the Apple, on the Spotify, on the on-demand platforms. The YouTube numbers have been amazing. We want to keep that growth going, and that is going to come down to you guys sharing the feed, letting people know where we are. All right. Enough housekeeping items. Let's get to the big news of the day. This came down on Friday. We touched on it very briefly on Friday because the story broke literally right before we were about to go on the air. And over the weekend, it remained a huge story. And that is the potential act of what a reasonable person might think is a bribe from the White House and from the governor's office and potentially the lieutenant governor's office over trying to get Alexandra Wilson out of the Senate District 38 race. So NBC News broke the story. Abdul had the story. The Capitol Chronicle had the story. Whole bunch of media outlets have covered this. We're going to work off the story from our friends at Indiana Capitol Chronicle. And let me read you the sort of the opening salvo to this as the Capitol Chronicle reported it. Quote, in text messages and phone call recordings released to news outlets Friday by Alexandra Wilson, close Trump staffers and others suggested she would be in line for political appointments if she dropped out of the Republican primary. So let's very briefly, I know most of you know the story here, but we have new people all the time. Let me just very briefly reset what's going on. And again, I know most of you, the most loyal, passionate, you're with us every day, but we do have new people as the numbers have grown coming in all the time. I just want to reset what's going on here. So Senate District 38 is Sullivan, Vigo, and Clay counties in the western part of our state. And their Republican Senate primary features Greg Good. Now, Greg Good has not been elected yet by the voters. He was appointed to that position in the middle of a term. He is running for election for the first time. Greg Good voted against redistricting last December. That made Trump and Turning Point USA very angry. They said, we're going to find somebody to run against you. And boy, did they have to look and look and look and look. They were turned down by multiple people. I know one, and the vetting process from these people was outstandingly bad. Like I've told you guys before, I know one person who contacted me who they were begging to run. Turning Point USA was begging to run. And by the way, this is why I have a big problem giving Turning Point USA access to our schools for this voter registration stuff, because they clearly have a large portion of their operation that is very political. The Turning Point USA people, I had a person who contacted me and in great detail told me the sales pitch that he was getting from Turning Point USA. Now, the hilarity about this is he goes, Rob, he goes, not only have I not voted in Republican primaries, which would get me kicked off the ballot, he said, I hate all these people so much, I don't even vote. Like, this is where Turning Point USA was in their recruitment process. Finally, no matter what they say, they had to settle on Brenda Wilson. Now, Brenda Wilson is member of the Vigo County Council. And the Turning Point USA, they finally got their candidate. It's Brenda Wilson against Greg Good. A third woman decided to get in the race, and her name is Alexandra Wilson. Now, as soon as she gets in or decides she's going to get in or says I'm going to get in, the Trump and Turning Point USA people lose their minds because these two women have the same last name, and they say, oh, it's shenanigans, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. And they are outraged because, one, Brenda Wilson is a very bad candidate. She's such a bad candidate that the family of her late husband endorsed Greg Good. We told you about that big public endorsement. Her family, the family of her late husband, endorsed the other guy. That's what a rotten candidate she is. Probably, quite frankly, the family must think she's a pretty rotten person. So all of what we're about to tell you about from the Trump White House and from the Braun administration was released by Alexandra Wilson, the third woman in the race. So according to the Capitol Chronicle, the phone calls, texts, and voicemails came from White House Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair and Trump Political Affairs Director Matt Brazzo. Brazzo. B-R-A-S-S-E-A-U-X. Brazzo, whatever. Doesn't matter. That's who he is. He's the Trump Political Affairs Director. And these messages and phone calls that Alexandra Wilson recorded and released to the media came in the lead up to the February 13th filing deadline, which is the last day for candidates to withdraw their name from the ballot. So this was in the lead up. There is a point where if you file for public office, you can say, I changed my mind, I don't want to do it. And they will take your name off the ballot. You're not going to be listed. So that is the lead up to this. In a 22-minute phone conversation, Blair, just a reminder that James Blair is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff. In a 22-minute phone conversation, Blair asked Wilson about her motivations, according to the Capitol Chronicle, for running and warned her about the focus coming to the state Senate race involving national pro-redistricting groups. Now, keep in mind, Alexandra Wilson has faced a legal challenge from super lawyer Jim Bopp. Jim Bopp tried to get her kicked off the ballot, claiming she was convicted of a felony. Now, Wilson has said, no, I was charged with the felony. I pled guilty to a misdemeanor, whatever this was, 15 or 16 years ago. And Bop has, to an unhealthy level, tried to get this woman kicked off the ballot. He tried to get her off from the election commission. Didn't accomplish it there. Tried to get her kicked off in the court system. Didn't get it there. Went back to the election system. Tried to get her kicked off again. The election board. Couldn't get her kicked off there. Now it's apparently going back to court. Early voting's already started. Like, at this point, and this is Abdul asked this over the weekend. He said, if you kicked her off the ballot, think about the chaos you would be creating at this point. People have already voted for her. Do their votes count? Do they get to vote again? Do they get a do-over? Like, there is no way at this point they're going to kick this woman off the ballot. And yet, Jim Bopp, super lawyer, who is connected with the Trump administration and the Braun administration, has had this unhealthy obsession with trying to get this poor woman kicked off the ballot. Okay. Here's the part that now we start to see everything come together. Blair said he expected Wilson would face attacks over her 2010 conviction for resisting law enforcement at the age of 19, which was expunged from her court records last month by Vermilion County Court. So what that tells us is if you have an IQ above 7, you're probably drawing the connection that Jim Bopp is working in coordination with the White House. That this isn't some concerned citizen thing. I don't think it takes a huge leap to say this is being done in coordination with the White House to do the bidding of the White House, what Jim Bopp is doing right here. I mean, this high-ranking Trump official tells Alexandra Wilson in a recorded conversation, this is going to happen, and well, what do you know? This is happening. Quote, I just want to talk about the brass tacks reality that I think it's going to get really ugly, Blair said, according to the Capitol Chronicle, to Alexandra Wilson. I think, we're sort of working at cross purposes with two people with the same last name on the ballot that benefits neither of our goals. Well, how would he know what her goals are? Sounds like Alexandra Wilson's goal is to win the election. It sounds like that's why she filed to run for public office. Nobody's been able to prove otherwise. Nobody's been able to prove any sort of coordinated operation here or nefarious means. Right now, all we've seen, despite all this, oh, she did it for this reason or that reason, is just some woman who wanted to run for public office. Brazeau, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. 12-minute call with Alexandra Wilson included what he called a, quote, point-blank question and asked, quote, according to the Capitol Chronicle, is there a pathway to where you would put some thought into another route to making an impact on your community? Now we're starting to get to the point where we're talking about bribery. Quote, I'm just trying to think outside the box to where we can kill two birds with one stone. And you have the ability to affect change and do exactly what you're talking about doing, he said. Quote, but we have the ability to take out Greg Good and move on. Here you see a coordinated effort from the White House, from multiple high-ranking members in the White House, the Trump orbit, to get this woman out of the race. And they're saying very directly, our goal is to get Greg Good. Now, look, there's a lot of votes Greg Good has cast that I don't agree with, but this is ridiculous. And they're not trying to get Greg Good over his vote on property taxes or utility bills or litany other things, or you could go after Greg Good on a voting record. They're going after him because Trump's mad about redistricting. They don't give a damn about the condition of Indiana. They don't give a damn about our roads. They don't care about our property taxes. They don't care about our utility bills. They're mad that Greg Good voted against redistricting. In a text message to Wilson, Brazeau, and again, if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, I'm sorry, Brasseaux, said he had spoken with, and this is key, said he had spoken with Joshua Kelly, the governor's chief of staff, who had options for state board appointments that could be available. Now we're getting into even more clear what people could construe as an act of bribery. Now the governor's office is in on it. And by the way, how stupid are these people? How arrogant are these people that they're doing all of this? These high-ranking officials are doing this directly, and they're doing it in messaging both verbally and electronically that can be recorded, that can be replayed, that can be put out there. I mean, they just assume this woman is some stupid idiot woman who has no idea what she's doing. It shows the conceit and the arrogance of these people. And now, according to this Trump official, Josh Kelly's in on it, which means Braun's in on it. Because Josh Kelly ain't just making this up as he goes along, or at least I would hope not. According to the Capitol Chronicle, Kelly also sent a text message to Wilson the following day asking to speak with her without an apparent response. So you've got the Trump administration telling this woman, we know you had this. I mean, look, she did it when she was 19. Sordid past isn't even the right word. She made this bad mistake when she was 19. We know you did this. And we're going to leverage it against you. That's the first. I mean, there's so many layers to this, right? That's the first thing. We know you made this horrible mistake. Like, look, I never committed a crime, was never arrested, was never charged with anything, didn't do anything that would be worthy of being charged with a crime or even close. But think about when you were 19, the stupid stuff you did. Hell, think of the stupid stuff you did at 21, at 25. Like, how many people in their lives have said, man, I made a really stupid mistake? And this tells you how rotten politics is. This is why, all the potential bribery allegations aside, this tells you how rotten these people are. And this is why good people don't go into politics. Because what are they doing? They find the most vulnerable point of this woman's life. By the way, she's 8 months pregnant, about to be a mother. So several months pregnant when this was allegedly going on. And what do? They're like, we're going to destroy you. Not because she's done anything wrong, but she has the audacity to run for public office. You have the audacity to run for public office, and so we're going to destroy you from something you did 16 years ago. That's the first approach. Not do some. Look, they're acknowledging their candidate is crap. They're acknowledging Brenda Wilson is a crap candidate, that they're this invested, the White House and the Braun administration are this invested in trying to get this woman out of the race. Because if you had a great candidate, you'd be like, Greg Good is going down. We got an A-plus candidate, and we are so excited about our candidate, and we're just going to pump all of our resources into this candidate, and we're great, man. Run if you want to run. It don't matter. People are going to be blown away by how great Brenda Wilson is. Now, listen to this lame-ass response when the Capitol Chronicle followed up with the governor's office about these allegations about potential bribery. Because what else do you call it? If you don't do what we say, we're going to destroy you and bring up the most vulnerable parts of your life. And if you do what we say, we'll give you potentially some government position. What else would you call that other than a bribe? If someone has another name for it, I'm all ears. Listen to this lame-ass response from the governor's office. Quote, we receive hundreds of referrals for Hoosiers interested in serving our state, and it is standard practice we follow up on those leads. Except Alexandra Wilson rejected their offer, and she said, like, I don't want that position. So who was the referral? She doesn't want the position. She was very adamant when you tried to force it on her. She was like, I don't want this position. And they go into detail about that in the article in the Capitol Chronicle. Quote, Mrs. Wilson was one of many who have been referred to our office. Mr. Kelly reached out and she did not respond. You know why she didn't respond? Because she wants to run for public office, which she has a right to do. Because you guys can't prove she was convicted of a felony. This is disgusting. Like, just take Trump out of the equation. Whatever loyalty you have to Trump, this is disgusting. These people could have been spending this time on our roads, our bridges, our property taxes, our utility bills, our Medicaid, any number of things that would have helped us, and they're not. Their obsessive level of time and energy is spent on trying to get some woman out of the race. By the way, another phone call came in from Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, who left a voicemail. Apparently, Wilson didn't call her back. He wanted to speak with her. What do you think Micah wanted to speak with her about? Wanted to pray for her? Did he want to discuss his boss and best friend and best buddy, Nathan Peternell, getting his house raided? No, of course not. He wanted to talk to her about this. So you have this is disgusting. You have 4 people being put on this. The governor's chief of staff, the lieutenant governor, and 2 high-ranking White House officials trying to get some woman out of a state Senate race. I mean, it wouldn't make it any better if it was a U.S. Senate race, but at least with that, okay, that's the Washington, D.C. This is the state of Indiana, people. And this is what the Trump White House and the Braun governor's office is wasting their time on. No wonder things never get any better. No wonder our roads are, I almost said it. No wonder our roads are complete crap. No wonder our property taxes aren't getting any better. No wonder our utility bills keep skyrocketing. No wonder the IEDC, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, is completely corrupt. Because they're not spending, Braun and the White House, they're not spending their time, Micah, they're not spending their time fixing those things. They're spending it trying to bully some pregnant woman out of running for office. Disgusting. I would say these people should be ashamed of themselves. But as we've proven time and time again, these people, they have absolutely no shame. Hey, don't leave your biggest investment to chance. Work with Lauren Wilson, a realtor who is Hoosier through and through, a military vet, dedicated to a higher standard of service. Lauren Wilson is ready to help you with your next chapter. Real estate is about big life changes, and Lauren Wilson gets that. Whether you're upgrading, family, downsizing, retirement, whatever it might be, Lauren Wilson is there. And here's the thing, even if you're not in the buying or selling phase right now, it's a huge benefit, or can be a huge benefit down the road, to have somebody in your back pocket. So when you make that choice, you know who you're going to call. Call Lauren Wilson. Get to know her. Lauren Wilson with At Properties, 317-590-2290. 317-590-2290. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, freelance journalist Tom Lobianco will be with us. In light of the Klein-Helter charges from Ryan Mears that nobody saw coming, could there be another elected official about to face charges that nobody really saw coming? We'll talk about that coming up next. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Hi, I'm Lauren Wilson, a realtor with At Properties. Born and raised right here in central Indiana and a Hoosier through and through. Selling your home is a massive undertaking, and I completely understand what that is. That's why when you work with me, we put a great plan together to make sure that when your home comes to the market, it is in the best light possible. Again, I'm Lauren Wilson, 317-590-2290. 317-590-2290. Let's put a plan together and get your home sold.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message. Paid for by Linda Cheesem.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My 2 major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Welcome back to the Rob Kendall Show. Huge news coming down last week, and does it put the office of the lieutenant governor potentially back in the crosshairs? Of course, we're talking about Ryan Mears, Marion County prosecutor, coming out with an indictment charges against Tom Kleinhelter, the sheriff of Du Bois County, related to false statements made to state police back in December of 2024. Now, this is interesting because it was not on anybody's radar. And now, does that mean that other investigations that have sort of fallen off everybody's radar, including the lieutenant governor, which we know there was a grand jury, is that back in play? Joining us to discuss, a man who broke the story about the allegations of AI porn allegedly being shared in the lieutenant governor's office, Tom Lobianco, veteran journalist, freelance journalist, 24 Site News, joins us now. Tom, hello.
Hey, Kendall. How's it going, man?
It's going good. All right, so you broke this story last year, and we know there was a grand jury that emanated out of this story about allegations of AI porn being shared in the lieutenant governor's office, also ghost employment. But we haven't heard much since that story came out late last summer, early fall from the Indy Star. Do you believe there's still an active investigation related to the lieutenant governor's office?
So I can provide a few updates there. And some of this I have reported at 24site.news. Some of it I have not yet reported because of a bigger story, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes here. But here's where things stand as I know it, based on my reporting. And we'll be breaking some news here. I mean, I know from talking with sources and talking with people who have spoken with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office that a number of former and current staff have spoken with investigators for Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears. Now, a couple of logistics, and I think we probably talked about this, some of this a few months ago. Last time I was on, grand juries kind of go like this. They're in Marion County, and each county has its own grand jury process, right? Grand juries go for 6 months, right? They're impaneled. They hear evidence. Now, that evidence it's just kind of a rolling grand jury. It's not like a federal process where they're called for a specific case. All right. It's an open process. It's almost like regular jury duty, right? You're called in. You got to do your service to your country. You sit through, anything. It could be parking tickets. It could be, grand larceny. You name it, right? They will hear presentations from the Marion County prosecutor. And as part of that, either the prosecutor or his team will present testimony they have gotten through their own interviews, right? Evidence they've gotten through their own interviews, or if they deem it important enough, will actually bring the witnesses directly before the grand jury so they can hear it directly themselves. Now, at this point, we do not know whether any decisions have been made with regards to potentially seeking any charges against anybody inside the lieutenant governor's office. The last really definitive thing that we heard was there's a regular report that's put out by the office of the prosecutor with regards to what cases they are investigating. And they do provide some certain details, and that they revealed that they were looking into potential non-consensual AI deepfake porn, which we've talked about. That would be the video of Craig Haggard's wife that was made a year ago, and it has been quite a year since then.
And real quick, you're certain that went down. Like, you are a firm believer in this because you came out from the beginning and it wasn't like alleged to you. It's like it happened.
Yeah. I mean, the way I reported it, and, and we now know, one person has come forward on the record with this, details of this, Aaron Sheridan, who used to be employed by Beckwith. I wrote it directly that way because I had enough sourcing that I was confident that it happened. And we should also note that, I spent 20 minutes on the phone with Micah last August when I broke the story. It was a very interesting phone call. It was on the record, and he denied it. He said that he had conducted. Oh boy.
Did he tell you he did his
He-
own investigation? Did he tell you what the investigation was?
You know, I feel like, you know, you use the term investigation here. That's like me saying that I put together a rock opera this morning that would rival, you know, The Who. All right. Like, and I just, no, it's, and, you know, he talked to some people. He talked to one of the people involved in it, Greg Pauls, his chief ethics counsel, as it turns out. Is the other person who saw it was Devin Norrick, his lawyer. Um, and denied that it happened. He's repeatedly denied that it happened. I would also, again, you know, issue an open door policy to the lieutenant governor to, you know, let's chat. You know, there's quite a few things that have happened since then, so I'd really would love to talk more about it. And
so my
yeah.
question to you, Tom Lobianco is our guest, veteran freelance journalist. 24 Site News is his website where he does all of his reporting. The fact that the mirrors stuff came out like out of nowhere with Kleinhelter to me, because that was not on anybody's radar, and then it just popped up. I said the other day, I said, if I'm Beckwith, I'm a little worried. Doesn't mean something's going to happen. Nothing could happen. There could be no charges. He could tell everybody go home. But the fact that that came out of nowhere, and it seems like there was a lot less investigating that needed to be done on Kleinhelter than there was Beckwith, I'd be a little worried about this.
Well, yeah, you know, the other thing, and I mean, the thing which caught everybody's eyes, obviously, is this, you know, the deepfake porn, and that, you know, clearly. But the thing that, you know, for insiders, people know about this stuff, sources I talk with, people that we talk with, a lot of political insiders who understand what's going on, is really the ghost employment. And it's the potential, and you know, for ghost employment, it could be anything, right? I mean, it could be, you know, like the equivalent of a no-show job. You're getting paid to do, you know, to go, you know, while you're out there golfing or whatever, not actually doing any work. You could, but very often is used for people who do political campaign work on the state taxpayer dime. And that is generally what Indiana's ghost employment law has to deal with. And I will say anecdotally, based on my reporting, I have seen some evidence of that. Now, whether that rises to a level of prosecution is a different question. You know,
Tom
years
Labi-
ago.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So your theory is that it's not over with. Like, and I like the
No.
Kleinhelter thing is a great insight into how mirrors
Mm.
works, because that was pretty quiet and pretty meticulous.
Yeah, it's a serious investigation. And I, you know, I repeatedly tell my sources this when they, you know, we talk about this story, other stories surrounding Beckwith, quite a few stories surrounding him. Yes, it is a very serious investigation. They're taking their time. They seem to be taking their time. Um, whether anything comes, remember too, this is, you know, I've years ago, I did an investigation of former school superintendent Tony Bennett. And one of the stories I worked on back then, which did not get nearly the attention as the grade rigging thing that was going on, the school grades, um, was that his staff had more than likely violated ghost employment laws. They were fundraising out of the school superintendent's office. They were dialing for dollars. I have a still quite useful list of a lot of big name Republican donors that was obtained from a public email server. Okay, like I would not have that if it had not been used inside that office. I mean, I probably would have gotten some of those names through sourcing, but still, quite valuable list, actually, the big hitter list, as I recall, and that was to me a pretty clear violation of the state's ghost employment laws. But the Marion County prosecutor back then, Terry Curry, chose not to pursue a case there, and that was, you know, good political junkies, as anybody who listens to the Kendall Show will know. Some big names like Cam Savage was part of that back then. Cam Savage, a longtime operator in Republican politics, going all the way back to somebody who served as Secretary of State. Folks might have heard of him, Todd Rokita, before he worked for Tony Bennett. So, I mean, there, and you know, and kind of the counter to a lot of this is that, well, everybody inside the building does that. which okay, yes, that's I mean that's a fairly dour assessment of things, and not everybody does that, but clearly more than a few people do. Um, it- Being a little crass here, not everybody gets caught red-handed. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I want to, while we have time here, I want to make sure we get to this. So you, obviously, you broke that story. You have also been the source on the investigation, now conviction of Jonathan Peternell, Nathan Peternell, lead pastor at Life Church, Micah Beckwith's boss, best friend, podcast co-host, and you essentially broke this story too about, and you have been in the courtroom covering this, his Jonathan Peternell's heinous crimes against children. The body cam footage is now out. We talked about this last week. It appears to confirm to anyone with an IQ above 7, Nathan and his wife knew exactly what their son was accused of. They let him back into the church. They didn't tell the church. You've watched all 20 hours of the body cam footage. Tell us about it.
Remarkable, really remarkable. And I have to tell you, there is a moment in each Jonathan Peternell, Chrissy Peternell, and Nathan Peternell are interviewed separately by the police in three separate portions. So it's 20 hours of footage across 12 cops, roughly 12 as I counted it, of body cam footage. And there's a really it's macabre, but also pretty funny. Nathan is kind of doing chit chat with the cops in the back of the van at their house on September 10th of last year, when the search is ongoing, and he makes a comment. He's like, oh well, this is well, you guys have those body cameras on there. Are the body cameras, are they on all the time? And the cops are like, well, yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then it's like 7 a.m. It's early in the morning, and he kind of looks at me. He's like, perchance would the body camera be on right now? And they're like, yeah, actually. It is remarkable. This is the body camera footage, and I have not reported on it yet because I have, as part of a deeper project I'm working on on this story, and more to come on that as I can reveal it publicly. But I will tell you that the significance of the body camera footage is really remarkable. And you know this, Rob, having been a member of Life Church and having, run into obstacles trying to get, clear answers from them, the same as many other congregants who have left. This is the first time that we have Nathan Peternell and really Chrissy Peternell, really both very fascinating interviews with the cops, at length on the record talking about any of this.
For the record, though, you watched it all. They acknowledge, both of them, what this kid's accused of that day.
Yes. Yeah. They say that, there's a moment there pretty early on where Nathan says that he hates child pornography and that it's evil. Chrissy is in a separate car doing a separate interview. And there's a moment where the cop tells her, he says, well, this is, we're investigating. We got this tip from Snapchat that your son might have child pornography. This is what we were looking into. And she goes dead quiet for like a few seconds. And you could tell that this seems to be dawning on her, like the severity of this. So that's September 10th. Now remember that October 20th, he was not arrested until October 23rd. And based on everyone I've talked to who was at the church at that time, many of whom have left since then, Nathan, and this is really part of the anger why so many people have left, is Nathan kept bringing Jonathan to the church knowing what he was being investigated for around children.
He certainly did. As an eyewitness, he certainly did.
And yes, and lied to people about it. And
including his staff, including his staff. That's including his family members, allegedly, according to some of his family members.
Yes. And it's a repeated problem inside Life Church. I mean, that's a whole other thing. But, we recently got, I just got an email from a source, which is an email that was sent out, and you can read about it at 24site.news. I got an email from a source inside the church that was blasted out to the entire church from the interim pastor, so Mike Melito,
who is Nathan's brother-in-law.
Yep, Nathan's brother.
He is married to Nathan's sister, who is also employed at Life Church, or at least she was last I knew.
Right. Yeah, Danya Peternell's sister still as I understand still employed there. Mike Melito still there. Nathan Peternell it was sent into it's Assemblies of God Pentecostal, what they call a restorative process. So it's like a Pentecostal rehab service. Because as part of the search, when they found the child sexual abuse material that Jonathan was ultimately sentenced to 6 years for and made to register as a lifetime sex offender, they also found 50 videos of Nathan and Chrissy either naked or having sex on the phone. And his explanation of that is that Jonathan got high and hacked into a password protected account to steal those videos, but has also said that he has acknowledged that he and Chrissy did make those videos. And as I reported at the time when he was pushed into the Pentecostal rehab, so he was forced to step aside by the Assemblies of God. I noted in there that the rule for Pentecostal pastors, for Assembly of God pastors, is you're not allowed to have porn. You're not allowed to view porn, even if that's of you and your wife. It's within the covenant of marriage. And so that was a very big thing. Now, Mike Melito, his brother-in-law, has stepped in since then. That happened I think he left on March 1st. Mike Melito has stepped in since then. The Bodycam footage comes out, and now they have to answer for more things that they've hidden. And Mike Melito has promised that on Sunday, April 19th, there will be a family meeting, a Life Church family meeting at Noblesville, 2:30 p.m., where they will answer questions about this, because they don't want people hearing it from other sources, which I have to tell you has been the entire story of this.
You have information on something that we've touched on many times. Tom Lobianco is with us. 24 Site News is his website. 24 Site News, the website, if you want to read all of this stuff. But I want to make sure we have time to get into this, Tom, because we've referenced this before. The malicious intent is clear from not only Nathan, but Micah to try to cover this up, because they deleted old episodes of the Jesus, Sex, and Politics podcast. Can you tell us what those podcasts were about? Because they're old and they're very select. Tell us.
Yeah, it was two podcasts that they deleted. One was in which they talk with their wives about sex. All right. And they talk with, so Chrissy Peternell. They have Chrissy and Susan Beckwith on to the show to talk about their sex lives. And
like their personal sex lives?
I don't want to blow up any. I don't want to blow up any scoops just yet. I would just say, please keep it tuned to 24 Site News.
Okay.
Now, the other one was one in which they interviewed the survivor of sexual assault. And this was in 2021 that they did this, and they promptly deleted it right after the arrest of Jonathan. Which, again, I can't reveal too much from that. Clearly, I have a copy of it.
It's my understanding they make some pretty inflammatory statements about what should happen to people.
Nathan. I can't remember if it was Nathan or Micah, but one of them makes a comment that basically that anybody caught with that should be murdered.
Yeah, so we should wait until you have the reporting at 24 Site News. You have more coming on that.
Yes, more coming there. Yes.
Okay, before we let you go, how has Beckwith evaded scrutiny on this? Because this is his boss, his best friend, his podcast co-host. They're thick as thieves. They travel together. I don't think any reasonable person is like, this traumatic life event happens to Nathan and they just don't say anything to Micah. Like, how is he evading having to answer the question, what did you know about this maniac, and him being back in a church?
Oh boy. A year ago, I was talking on the phone with Micah. We were texting. I spent a day in his car with him, shadowing him. So, got a pretty good sense of this guy, reporting about him. And, since the deepfake story, he's blocked me for it. So I can't, I do call him periodically, and it just doesn't, I'm blocked, which is fine. That's, you can do that. That is, that's whatever. His 3 communications staffers in the lieutenant governor's office, which is 2 more than I've ever heard of for a lieutenant governor.
Let's point that out real quick. He has 3 guys. Well, 2 guys and a girl and they're
Yes.
making buku bucks. And I don't know what they communicate because they don't do nothing.
I well, you know what they tell me routinely is they don't talk about issues regarding Life Church.
Where he's still
Okay.
employed. He's still
Yes.
employed there.
Yes, yeah, the lieutenant governor is still employed by Nathan Peternell. Um, and he doesn't respond to my cell phone calls directly. His staff, his official staff won't respond to me. The Life Church did hire at some point a PR person to handle this, who doesn't respond to me. I actually don't even know the name of that person, so it could be nobody. I don't know. It is supremely weird to me that a seemingly professional operation, ostensibly professional, would behave in this manner. People do not respond to me. Nathan does not respond to me. Mike Melito has not responded to me recently about any of this. Guys, please. Uh, I don't know what to say other than it's a big story, and people are interested in it, not least of which is your own congregation. It's a big deal.
How hard has this hit Life Church, like both from an employee standpoint and a congregation standpoint? I mean, obviously, we've been out a long time, but I know there are people still making choices.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. It's funny. I'm Lobianco, I'm Catholic, but my kiddo's going through First Communion process right now, and I'm relearning quite a bit about the Catholic faith. And I kind of joke with folks that I really know more about the Pentecostal faith than I ever expected to. I have listened to quite a few Nathan Peternell sermons from over the years, including some very interesting sermons in which he discusses sex and how to have sex, and having a healthy sex life with children present on a Sunday. It's not my cup of tea. I don't think I would not go in for that, but yes, I have listened to a lot of them. I've listened to a number of Micah's sermons, downloaded them, and transcribed them, and including the sermons in which he tells people that Jesus walked on water and don't question Nathan. O ye of little faith, ye disciples, do not question your leader.
Okay. So this is one other thing I want to get to, because this was it was already the end for me, but when I saw this, I wanted to get sick. I'd stopped going, but I wanted to see how they were going to handle it. Life Church, when the Nathan stuff is going down and the Jonathan stuff is going down, they have Micah introduce this guy by the name of Chad McAtee, and it's a glowing recommendation from Micah, a glowing introduction from Micah. And this guy gets up there and he just starts barking at the congregation, comparing Nathan to Jesus and people like me to the doubtful disciples. Did I miss any? Am I misstating any of that?
Yeah, that's right. And, it's very hard because there's nationally, the Assemblies of God, we won't get into the theology and the governing structure of the Assemblies of God, but there have been a number of sex scandals and of sex abuse scandals which have been rocking that denomination in particular recently, things which are being unearthed. And I'll tell you that I don't know, like probably a month before I reported that Nathan was leaving, I had reached out to the National Assemblies of God, trying to get anybody, now this is the national denomination in Springfield, anybody to return a call. Please talk to me. I'm a reporter who is writing about this. I think the public would like to know about it. Your lieutenant governor is still employed there, still preaching about this. It literally took me. I quoted Chad McAtee when Nathan was put into the restorative process. I found out about on Friday, February 20th. This is about a week after Jonathan was sentenced, after that court hearing. I found out that Nathan was being sent into this restorative process, and I called up Chad McAtee on his cell phone, and talked for maybe 30 seconds, and I said, hey, look, I'm writing this, it's Friday, it's like 6:30 p.m. What is a restorative process? What can you tell me about this? Why? I've heard different reasons for why this is happening, but clearly this decision was made by the Indiana office, and he is the director of the Indiana office. Being a former Associated Press reporter and I've been reporting for 25 years, and perhaps being more genteel than I should, I just put a line in the story that an official involved in this process declined comment, because after I finished asking him questions, he said, well, you need to talk to Nathan about that, and hung up the phone. So I did get, this is what it takes to get an answer from the National Assemblies of God, because their communications director, finally did email me back like a couple days later. And he said, oh, I don't know that you've talked to any official from the Assemblies of God. Nobody in here has talked to you at all. And I wrote back and I was like, well, yes, I would love to talk. I think we would all, yes, please, my man, let's do this. And I just wrote back and I was like, dude, I'm trying to be nice and like restrained here.
Right.
I didn't blow up Chad McAtee by name, even though that's so. Guys, I don't know what else to say. Like, I mean, there's going to be more.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and we're running short on time, but this is the thing. There's clearly a cover-up of this. They clearly don't want people to have the truth. The guy that has the ability to unleash the truth is the number 2 guy in the state of Indiana. That's why it's a worthy news story. Micah Beckwith is the second most powerful guy. He is something bad happening to Braun away from running our state. And everybody in that state house just turns a blind eye to this, just acts like it's okay. He has the audacity to post about helping children or crimes against children or whatever that most recent thing was, helping whatever. And it's just like, it's fun and games to him, and it's gross and it's really disgusting. And thank God for you, Tom Lobianco, because you've done a lot more reporting on this than most of the media here in our city. So hopefully somebody will get to the bottom of it. 24/7 news, or 24 site news, 24, there it is. 24 site news is the website. Tom Lobianco, thank you, my friend.
Kendall, thanks, brother.
All right, you've been watching Rob Kendall Show. Stick around, more on the way. Coming up next.
Are you seeing cracks in mortar, moisture working through walls, facade or structural failure beginning to surface? Bramwell Mackay sets the standard for exterior and structural building solutions. Our 40-year master masons and industry experts address moisture intrusion, failing foundations, masonry deterioration, and more. From preserving historic landmarks to addressing modern building envelope issues, Bramwell Mackay delivers full-spectrum service with white-glove professionalism. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My 2 major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Buying a home or thinking about refinancing? Work with someone local who understands the central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps homebuyers and homeowners explore options for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple, clear advice, and personalized guidance, so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more or get started today. You've got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no-obligation quote, 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow, NMLS number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message. Paid for by Linda Cheesem.
Welcome back. back. Rob Kendall Show. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't done so yet, hit that little like button, that little thumbs up there on the YouTube feed, whether you're watching us live or on demand. That really helps us grow the program. And, of course, quick reminder, subscribe to the feed. I know it sounds like a broken record here, but all this stuff we're doing, there's a method to the madness. Subscribing to that feed, that really helps us grow the show. And, of course, sharing this feed, hitting that little share button, put it to your Facebook, to your Twitter, wherever you're getting us from, let people know you can help us grow. And, again, just a reminder, thank you to everyone who has hit that support button over at robkendallshow.com. Have you heard about our website, robkendallshow.com? We got our live feed up there, all the on-demand podcasting platforms, the Apple, the Spotify, where you can find us. And, of course, stories off transcripts of our favorite segments each day at robkendallshow.com. And if you're like, man, I really like what these guys do, I want to support them, I want to help them out, I had some super generous subscribers over the weekend, or supporters rather, over the weekend, hit the support button at the top of the feed, whether it's $1, $10, whatever it is. We are certainly appreciative of that. Let me tell you about somebody else we're appreciative of, and that is Baltus Travel. You know, trips would be a lot more fun if you didn't have to handle the hassle of planning them on your own. Like saying, I want to go here, but I don't want to do any of the work getting it off the ground. Lucky there's a guy for that. Adam Baltus, Baltus Travel Service. Adam is a one-stop shop for helping you plan your entire adventure. And the great thing is, in most cases, using Baltus Travel won't make your trip cost an extra dime. Baltus Travel takes all the work and worry out of planning your trip without adding any cost in many cases. Adam is certified through most major travel services, through most major cruise lines, as well as Disney and Universal theme parks. Take all the worry out with Baltus Travel Service. Visit baltustravel.com, BALTUSTRAVEL.com, or call 812-593-7561, 812-593-7561. You know, it is vacation season, and let a pro do the work for you. Baltus Travel Services. Okay, there was something that happened over the weekend, and look, if you're new to the program, welcome. So great to have you being with us. What we do here is it's different from any other show you're going to listen to. We spend 99% of our time talking about Indiana news, politics, and government. And every day I look through what I think are the biggest stories affecting Indiana, the state of Indiana. And sometimes we will cover national stories. If we do, we bring them back home. We talk about how they're affecting us here at home. And there was something that happened. It was an anniversary of something that happened over the weekend. And I thought, dang it, this needs to be covered. And I know nobody else is going to cover this, so I will do it. And that was, and this is why I love the show that we're doing now, because it's not necessarily the biggest national stories. In fact, we do very little national news here. There's 10 million other places you can get national news. 10 million other people just reading the headlines back to you. 10 million other people that have no unique take, no different take. We'll let them have it. That's not what we do here. We talk about Indiana. So if you got friends that you want to, that's when you tell your friends, say, look, if you want Indiana, this is the place. And there was something, an anniversary of something big over the weekend. I said, I'm going to be the one to talk about it because it's really important. And that was that Saturday was the 35th anniversary of the funeral of Ryan White. 35th anniversary. Seems hard to believe, but it was the 35th anniversary of Ryan White's funeral. And, you know, look, I think Ryan White, April 11th was the funeral of Ryan White. Maybe even the 36th. Anyway, it was the anniversary. And it's just etched in mind that April 11th is the funeral of Ryan White because it was a national story. And every year, either on Ryan's passing or his funeral, I try to mention something about Ryan White. Because to me, Ryan White probably deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of Indiana Hoosiers. Remember on the old show, we used to talk about this, like who is the Mount Rushmore of Indiana Hoosiers? And a name that never gets mentioned and probably deserves certainly to be in the conversation, maybe there, is Ryan White. Now, look, I want to talk a little bit about, I think most of you probably know. Look, you are very, very intelligent, informed people that are a part of this show. But I want to talk a little bit about Ryan White and his legacy, because Ryan White, if you enjoy what I do, from the time I was a little kid, Ryan White had a huge impact on me. I will never forget when I first learned about Ryan White. I must have been 8 or 9 years old. Do you guys remember the Lifetime Network? Does Lifetime Network still exist? Is that still a thing? I remember when I'd get home from school, because Lifetime Network had Unsolved Mysteries reruns. And so every day when I would get home from school, I would try to watch the Unsolved Mysteries reruns. And they also had a daily movie or movies that they ran. And I remember, like I said, I must have been 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10. I don't know. But the Lifetime Network is still around. It still exists. Okay, great. Probably they play like all the Hallmark Christmas movies now. But I remember seeing the movie, the Ryan White movie. And it was a made-for-television movie, and Lifetime often ran reruns of other sorts of movies. And I remember seeing this movie, watching when I got home from school, and thinking, this kid was incredible. It was after his passing. It was after he'd passed away. And I just remember watching this movie thinking, oh my gosh, this kid is incredible, what he went through, the life that he lived, the adversity that he faced, and the way he handled himself as a teenager. And I said, wow, that is someone we should all strive to be like. I remember thinking that at whatever I was, 8, 9, 10 years old, thinking we should all strive to be this kid, to handle our life the way this kid handled his, because he looked adversity in the face. And adversity in his case, we'll talk about Ryan here in a second, was a death sentence, certainly at the time, a death sentence. And he handled it with such grace and dignity. And he was so important in the conversation of facing the stigma that his illness, and saying, I'm going to be a voice for good, and I'm going to educate people on why people don't need to fear me or people with AIDS. And it was an incredible story. So for those of you who don't know, and again, most of you do, but if you're not familiar, and if you're not, totally familiarize yourself with Ryan White. It's just an absolutely incredible story. So Ryan White was a teenager from Kokomo, Indiana, and he developed AIDS he's diagnosed in 1984. And he got it through a blood transfusion. Like the way we handle medicine and the way we handle certainly modern, is just like, it's hard to believe 40 years ago that some things were going on. But in the 1980s, certainly the early mid 1980s, people didn't know really anything about AIDS or HIV and how it was transposed. And Ryan White suffered from hemophilia. And he constantly, on a weekly basis, had to get these blood transfusions. Again, no fault of his own. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He wasn't living a risky life. He was just a kid. He was just a freaking kid going to middle school. And he contracted AIDS through a blood transfusion. And like, I think about as someone with a young child, it's part of why, and some of you ask, like, why are you so irate about the stuff with Micah Beckwith and Nathan Peternell in Life Church? Because I'm a parent. The most important job I have in the world now is my kid. It's not this. It's not even being a husband. Like, it's not even close. Like, everything pales in comparison to being a parent, being a father to my daughter. And I just think about, like, when my kid gets the sniffles, like, I freak out. Not like freak out like I lose my mind, but internally, right? Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. When my kid scrapes her knee, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. And that's part of parenting. It's part of being a kid. Those things happen, and there's ways you deal with it. But, and I'm sure you're this way if you have kids. There's nothing you wouldn't do for your kid. There's nothing you wouldn't do to defend your kid. And I think about, as a teenager, the position Ryan White was put in to have this, at the time, what was a death sentence, because modern medicine has come a very long way thanks to the Ryan White and some other very brave people. But at the time in the 1980s, it was a death sentence. And you think about your teenager. It's a middle school kid who was given a death sentence. And I just think about it as a parent. Like, I was thinking about this last night. I was just putting some of the timeline on this together. And it's just like, my heart was hurting because of what that must have been like to go through this. And so Ryan White was living in or around a little town called Rushville. And when he was diagnosed with AIDS, the parents, and this is what's really bad, even a lot of the teachers of that small town, they completely freaked out. And they did everything in their power to ban this kid from going to middle school. Now look, people were acting out of ignorance at the time. It wasn't meant to be mean or malicious because, again, so little was known about AIDS and HIV in 1984, including how you could spread it, how you could get it, how you transmitted it to people. And so you think about this kid who now, at whatever he was, 13, 14 years old, has to deal with a death sentence a prolonged suffering death sentence, and he's being ostracized by his once friends and teachers. Like, it's unbelievable. I was trying to put myself in that position, what that would have been like. And everybody wants to be accepted, certainly when you're 14, 15 years old, 13, 14, 15 years old. And not only is this kid not accepted, he's made to be a pariah. So eventually Ryan White and his family decide to fight this. They get allowed back into school. And in a response to that, a lot of kids were just held home from school. So now you go back and you know everyone hates you, doing nothing wrong, by the way. Everyone hates you and they're keeping their kids out of school. So now the kids who were once your friends, now they hate you. And the school, when allowing him back into school, made him eat with disposable utensils. He had to use separate bathrooms. He had to waive his right to enroll in gym class. I mean, you're a kid and you're being treated like some test tube freak. I mean, it's just like, it's ridiculous. But here's the thing about Ryan White. He refused to give up. And his family eventually moved to Arcadia. They ended up going to Hamilton Heights High School, and he was largely more accepted at Hamilton Heights and in Arcadia than he was in his previous school system. Now, Ryan facing his illness and, at the time, inevitable death, the way he did, and the boldness with which he said, I am a human. I am not a threat to people. I have a right to live the life of with what time I have left with some level of dignity and decency, and willing to endure scorn and shame and belittling. That caught a lot of national attention. You have this kid who is being so bold about his diagnosis and the life that he has, and his parents who are being bold, and their refusal to just slink away and allow him to, die quietly in some hospital or in a, live his remaining days out in a bedroom by himself. That caught a lot of national media attention. And Ryan White spent the remaining 5 or 6 years of his life going on national television, speaking to groups, speaking to clubs, going out into public and educating people on what it was like to live with AIDS and HIV, how you could contract it through no fault of your own. I mean, clearly that they started testing blood, testing plasma, all of these things afterwards, which saved countless lives because of when they determined how Ryan got the disease. And as a result of Ryan's bravery and his boldness, millions upon millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars now, flowed into learning about AIDS and HIV, how people get it, how people transmit it, how you can prevent yourself from getting it, and that it was okay to be around people with AIDS and HIV as long as you didn't do certain behaviors. You were really of no risk of getting AIDS or HIV, and allowed millions and millions of people now to, one, live life, period. I mean, look, AIDS and HIV is no longer the death sentence it once was. It's still very serious. You still have to be, if you get it, you have to do certain things. You have to take certain medications. And we still have a long way to go with it. But it's no longer a death sentence for most people, certainly if it's caught early in the process. And that, really, I think there's two people that did the most for AIDS and HIV. It was Ryan White and it was Magic Johnson. Ryan White and Magic Johnson. Look, I mean, guys like Freddie Mercury had it, but Freddie Mercury lived largely a reclusive, seclusive life. And he didn't ever acknowledge he had it. And I think he was embarrassed by it. And he was a very private person to begin with. And so he didn't advocate. And in fact, the public was never even aware until he died that he had it. And a lot of other Hollywood people, the Rock Hudson type people, Anthony Perkins, the guy from the Brady Bunch, Robert Reed, they didn't use their time they had remaining to advocate better for others, certainly not like a Magic Johnson or a Ryan White did. And so I want to describe to you what Ryan White meant. So I went to Wikipedia, which always... like there's some dangers of going to Wikipedia, but I read other accounts and I think the Wikipedia account was pretty accurate about what Ryan White's funeral, which April 11th was the anniversary of Ryan White's death, what his funeral meant to the public and what Ryan White meant to the public by the time he had passed away. Because when we get 30 plus years on from things, going 40 years on from things, it's really easy because people literally start passing away who were there, who were part of it at the time, who were around. And once we start getting funding for things and the government starts getting, like, the people who were the trailblazers, they get forgotten about. And so I want to read to you the description of Ryan White's funeral. Over 1,500 people attended White's funeral on April 11th, a standing room only event held at Second Presbyterian Church on Meridian Street in Indianapolis. White's pallbearers included Elton John, football star Howie Long, and Phil Donahue. Elton John performed Skyline Pigeon at the funeral. The funeral was also attended by singer Michael Jackson and then First Lady Barbara Bush. On the day of White's funeral, Ronald Reagan wrote a tribute to White that appeared in the Washington Post. And look, the Reagan administration, and this is, I mean, that tells you the impact of Ryan White. The Reagan administration for years refused to put the resources that should have been put behind understanding AIDS and HIV and coming up with treatments. And look, part of why it took so long. And by the way, you know who was a major player in that? Anthony Fauci. You know who was a major player in all that? Who was the big boss at the time? Anthony Fauci. Because he refused, and he did the same mistake with AIDS and HIV that he did with COVID. It was all about prevention rather than dealing with how people who had the disease should be dealing with it. Anthony Fauci pulled the same crap during AIDS and HIV that he did with COVID, and he was wrong both times. But for Ronald Reagan, and whose administration refused to address the issue, by the time Ryan White passed away, which was shortly after the end of Reagan's time as president, this is not years down the road, to write that in the Washington Post was a mammoth deal. A mammoth deal. Look, I have interviewed two people who knew Ryan White pretty well. And they were fascinating conversations to me about Ryan White. First of all, I interviewed Ryan White's pastor. This was 10 years ago. The guy's name was Ray Probasco. And Ray Probasco was the minister for White's family. He handled White's funeral. And it was Jason, and I'll ask Jason, maybe he can just nod if we can do this. Jason, do we have the ability on our YouTube chat now to go back and post old interviews that I've done? Like if we re-uploaded those, can we do that on our YouTube feed? Can we do that? I think maybe later today I'm going to try to do this because that was a fascinating conversation. I would love for people to be able to hear who Ryan White was and what he meant. And this Ray Probasco, he laid this out like in great detail of Ryan White, the human being. The other person that I've interviewed who knew Ryan White somewhat well was Donald Trump. And in the interview I did with Donald Trump back in 2016, I asked him very specifically about Ryan White. And I was thinking, like Trump's met so many famous people and he's done so much stuff over the years. Was he going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember some things about that and blah, blah. No, he knew immediately, and he had no idea I was going to ask him about it. And I asked him about Ryan White and Trump, who got to know White very well. Trump's plane was what Michael Jackson used to go back and forth. Michael Jackson got to know Ryan White very well. And Trump, because he came to know Ryan White and had a connection with Ryan White, like Trump just lit up when he was talking about Ryan White. So maybe later today, if we can do this, we've still got those two interviews, the one I did with Trump and the one that I did with Ray Probasco. I'm going to try to see if we can get those loaded. Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. We got a lot of stuff going on today. But I like the glowing way in which Donald Trump talked about Ryan White some 25 plus years after his death. Like it was amazing. Like, he just shut up. Like he was so happy to talk about Ryan White. So look, I spent all this time on this because I think Ryan White, I never want the legacy of Ryan White to go away. I never want the sacrifice that Ryan White made to go away. And I say this from my own perspective because, look, I haven't faced a fraction of the challenges that Ryan White did. And thankfully, knock on wood, I've been a very healthy individual. I hope I am for years to come. But when I think about challenges that I face, and this may sound ridiculous, but it's true, I think about how Ryan White faced his own challenges. And I think I get like a fraction, whatever it is, I get a fraction of what this guy had to deal with. And look at how he faced things with grace and with dignity and with humility and honor. And so throughout much of my life, many times when I have faced adversity, I think about what would Ryan White do? How did he handle it? So I hope maybe doing this segment, I spent a lot of time on it, but I think he's worthy of it. I think Ryan White is one of the most important Hoosiers that ever lived. I don't think he gets near the publicity or the remembrance that he deserves. And look, it happens. People forget things over time. But I just wanted to spend some time today talking about Ryan White on the anniversary of his funeral because, man, he was a really incredible kid, and maybe it'll inspire you to learn some more about him and what he did today. Hey, buying a home or thinking about refinancing, work with someone local who understands the central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps home buyers and homeowners explore for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple: clear advice and personalized guidance so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes. Loansbygary.homes, or call 317-695-5179. 317-695-5179 to learn more to get started today. Look, guys, you got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no obligation quote. 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow in MLS, number 179207 with Verity Mortgage. In MLS, number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender. Look, this is why I love the show that we do now. I got to spend 20 minutes talking about Ryan White. And I know nobody else today is talking about Ryan White. And man, this is why I love what we're doing now. That meant so much to be able to do that. And it meant so much that you guys were here with me while we were doing that. And maybe it will do some good out in the world today. Maybe it'll help you with your life today when you're facing a challenge, when you're facing some adversity. Man, I just love that we're able to do this and that we're able to do all of this together. Hey, real quick, Ben Verbanic is going to join us here in just a moment from WTHI. We're going to get into this potential bribery, or what seems like bribery, that took place between the White House and the governor's office here in Indiana, and trying to get this Alexandra Wilson out of the Senate race. Ben is his newsman extraordinaire for WTHI television, the voice of the Wabash Ballet over there in Terre Haute. And we're also going to talk about, have you guys heard about this data center that's being proposed in Sullivan County? You think we got it bad here? This is like the mother of all data centers. The MODC, the mother of all data centers. We'll talk about that. But first, leaky chimney, water in the basement, cracks around the exterior of your home. Bramwell Mackay Property Services and Consultants is your authority for chimney repair, tuck pointing, foundation repair, crawl space to basement conversions, basement waterproofing, and more. Bramwell Mackay doesn't offer quick patches. Their team of 40-year master masons and industry experts address the root cause and provide solutions that last lifetimes. Your home is one of your biggest investments. Treat it that way. Bramwell Mackay, BRAMWELLMCKAY.com, your masonry foundation and chimney specialist. Okay, let's take a break. Ben Verbanic from WTHI will join us next. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Hi, I'm Lauren Wilson, a realtor with Properties. Born and raised right here in central Indiana and a Hoosier through and through. Selling your home is a massive undertaking, and I completely understand what that is. That's why when you work with me, we put a great plan together to make sure that when your home comes to the market, it is in the best light possible. Again, I'm Lauren Wilson, 317-590-2290, 317-590-2290. Let's put a plan together and get your home sold.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message. Paid for by Linda Cheesen.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My two major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Rob Kendall, it is the Rob Kendall Show, speaking with, oh my goodness, the voice of media in the Wabash Valley, the most beautiful man in all of Terre Haute television, the great Ben Verbanic of WTHI. Ben, hello.
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me on.
Okay, so nobody knows the news like you in the Wabash Valley. I'm going to start with this. What in the world is wrong with your Senate candidates over there? I've never seen drama like the Senate 38 primary. What's going on?
And this is really a great time to be in media here in Terre Haute, because this is one of the biggest issues. Just this Senate race has become just the very definition of what politics is. There are mailers coming out, attacks from all sides, 3 candidates. We've got challenges to candidates on the ballot. If you want it, the drama is here. So it's definitely been fun to follow, and I'm really interested to see what's going to happen in the primary.
So the latest on this is that Abdul reported, we started our show with this, in fact, earlier today, that Alexandra Wilson, there are now claims that the Braun administration and up to the White House were basically offering her goodies or giveaways or potential government boards in order for dropping out of the race. What's the reaction been from the Wilson campaign?
So Wilson did send us a statement to the newsroom email in which she basically acknowledged that that report was true. She had been offered aide positions, other jobs, essentially to drop out of the race. And she basically reasserted that that's not why she's running for Senate. She actually, in that email to the newsroom, said that she is a Trump supporter and she is, a fan of Trump's agenda and would have liked to have been endorsed by Trump. But she also used the word gamesmanship in reference to all of this. So I think she obviously turned it down and she's still on the ballot. So you should see her in the conversation going forward.
Why can't anyone figure out if she's been convicted of a felony? This doesn't seem like it should be that hard. You have covered this from the beginning. Why can't we figure out if this woman's been convicted of a felony or not?
So it's kind of been going back and forth between the state election commission to a court over in Clay County, back and forth. This actually also impacted a recent Vigo County Election Commission meeting where they literally had a meeting to decide if they were going to have to mail out the Republican ballots late or on time, depending on if she would be on the ballot or not. And during that meeting, when they were about to decide, the judge from Clay County sent down a ruling saying that they could send out the ballot on time. So it's been it's been a roller coaster of, is she on the ballot? Is she not on the ballot? In regards to the felony situation, or lack thereof, I should say, she has never been officially, I'm trying to think of the way to word this. She's never been officially sentenced or anything under any sort of a felony. Basically, she basically pled down to a misdemeanor, essentially. So as far as I know, there is no felony on her record.
I don't even live over there, and I'm starting to get angry with Jim Bopp. I feel like this jumped the shark a long time ago. He's the super lawyer filing all of these complaints. What is the reaction from the people of the Wabash Valley? I live in Indianapolis, and I'm tired of it. Where are they at?
So it's kind of, honestly, just with the total amount of drama that's happening in this race, this is it's not even one of the main things people are talking about, I feel like. I think that people are just kind of where we're sitting. We're just like, what's going on? Is she going to be on the ballot? Is she not? And they're kind of waiting for these forces that be to make a decision on her standing on the ballot. And it looks like she'll remain.
Ben Verbanic, the voice of media in the Wabash Valley, Terre Haute Television, WTHI is our guest. Okay, so from one drama-filled thing to the next, Sullivan County is getting a massively large data center. Data centers are all the rage across the state now, as in people literally enraged. Has there been drama? Tell us about the Sullivan County data center before we find out if the drama is there that is everywhere else.
So before I get to the drama, or this is very early days. This is, again, last week or 2 weeks ago, this was just announced. So people are still kind of in Sullivan County. They're kind of looking around like, what's going on? What is this? So to summarize what's basically happened, there is a private land agreement. This was a private landowner who has decided to sell his land, and there will be a data center constructed on it. The company that will be responsible for this data center is a company I've never heard of, called Potentia Inc.
Yeah, it's never McDonald's.
No. These, again, in the tech world, there's a million of these companies, and this is just, one of these data center companies. If you go to their website, they kind of have like a rundown of this project specifically, and I've got my reporting pulled up here. I'll just give you a couple of the numbers, and this is on WTHI TV if you want to pull this report up. So basically, this is a $65 billion investment. This is what Potentia Inc. claims.
How much?
Well, $65 billion with a B into Sullivan County.
Okay, look, I'm not trying to insult the people of Sullivan County. What is the worth of Sullivan County? Like, that's got to be like way more than the actual current worth of Sullivan County.
Well, so again, this is for the county. I think that this is going to be interesting to follow, because this could represent an interesting opportunity for the county, because this is quite a bit of investment, and the jobs and the things like that are being sold as that will happen could, positively impact the community. And again, when we get to what do the people feel? Well, I'm not sure yet, because it's so early days. I know that I've had a few residents reach out to me and say, oh, we don't want this. And I've had some say this will be good for the county. So we're really just gonna have to wait and see and wait and hear back from the company before we really know where this is gonna head.
You cover this stuff for a living. Do you have any idea what the data centers do? I think that's part of the problem. Nobody knows what they do.
Well, so from my understanding, and again, I'm not a technological genius or anything, but data centers are basically these massive computer systems that use a lot of electricity to generate large language models for artificial intelligence. So basically, when you're going on to ChatGPT or something and you're typing in, whatever your question is to ChatGPT, there is some data center out there connected to ChatGPT that's spinning its wheels and generating you that answer. That's my understanding.
Okay, so 60, like a lot of these data centers in Indianapolis ring, it's a 6 billion, or it's a 5 billion, or it's a 2 billion. You're telling me this is potentially 65 billion?
60, that's what it says. It says 65 billion, and it said, and again, you mentioned lower cost for these data centers. This one is touted as being one of the biggest, if not the biggest, data center in the state of Indiana. So, but by what looks like a large margin.
Okay, we got to get some sort of parameters around the data centers, right? Because like we did a big expose on the one in Shelbyville, where the planning commission unanimously is like, this is bad, we can't do it. And then the city council's like, we're doing it. And then it comes out they're getting millions of dollars from the company, allegedly. And like, we got to have some sort of parameters, right?
That's beyond my pay grade. All I know is that, this is going to be definitely an issue that people will probably, I guarantee you, just based on covering this area for a long time, there will be people against it, and I guarantee you there will be people for it. It's just going to have to be, it's a wait and see. And some of the things that this company claims will happen involve, nearly 3,000 construction jobs, local construction jobs. That's what they claim. They also claim about 500 permanent jobs. And based on the way the website reads, I don't know if those are going to be local jobs or if those are going to be people from elsewhere.
Yeah, elsewhere, like another country.
But if this does come to fruition, it will, say the locals aren't getting the jobs. At least I do theorize that more people would be in the area, which, that's an economic driver for sure.
Yeah, let's say what it is. It's people from other countries. That's why everybody's angry about it.
I don't know.
Can we talk about the construction? Yeah, this guy just reads the news and he's like, Rob, here you go. Oh, no, this is going to be Ben's final appearance on our show. The construction jobs bother me, too, because a lot of those jobs are transient. That's the jobs they always tout. And it's nothing against those people. That's a life they choose to live in. That's great. They go in there, they live in an extended stay place for 6 months, and then they're out the door. This is where I come back to. We got to be more honest about what the data centers are actually creating.
Yeah, so it's interesting talking about this. There's actually another a solar project that's being considered in Sullivan County. And I know that there has been some drama. I've been sitting in on a couple commissioners meetings where the unions in town, whether that's HVAC, electrical, plumbing, these unions have kind of come to this solar project and they have said, hey, if you want to engage in this project in our community, great. but you need to first sign a piece of paper that says these jobs, construction and otherwise, will go to the local workers. And during the commissioners meeting, the representative from the solar company, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, he was standing there and he was basically like, well, we're not signing anything. And he said he was basically like, yeah, we promise it will happen, but we're not going to sign a piece of paper. And so basically the commissioners ended up pushing that and tabling it for a later date so that the solar guy could go back and talk to his bosses. But I think that guy definitely wasn't going to agree to signing a paper there at the commissioners meeting.
Solar guy. I like that. Ben Verbanic is our guest, WTHI television. Okay, real quick. You sort of broke this story back when we had a radio show. You remember that? We had a radio show.
I remember.
We had you on to talk about this.
Highly rated, if I remember.
We were number one, and we're still number one in everyone's hearts. This carbon sequestration. Explain to us what it is, because it's a huge deal over in the western part of the state, and then explain the changes that are being proposed that seem like a really big deal.
Yeah, so carbon sequestration, it's been a topic of discussion here in my viewing area for years now. So this pilot project that's happening here locally, which is championed by a company called Wabash Valley Resources, basically plans to pump carbon runoff from a fertilizer plant underground into these massive pore spaces, which are just man-made or naturally occurring caverns below the Earth's surface. And they're basically just going to pump the CO2 down there. It's not going to go into the environment. And yeah, it'll just sit there. So it's kind of been a topic of contention because some of the locals are concerned. They're like, are you pumping this stuff underground? Could something go wrong? The company's maintaining that it's, they've looked this over and that they're confident it's safe. But it's just a classic land rights, new company coming in type of dynamic.
Yeah, because my concern would be I'm on the first hole at the Terre Haute Country Club. I'm putting for birdie. There's an explosion and the entire green and myself go up in flames. I'm very concerned about that.
Actually, ironically, from my understanding, again, I'm not a scientist. I've had to do extensive Googling and YouTube watching to come to this understanding. If it was to explode, it actually wouldn't be a explosion like you would see in Die Hard or something with a flaming cloud and and death and destruction. It would essentially be, from my understanding, a white plume of CO2 into the air, which if you know anything about CO2, you can't breathe it. So basically, it would just if something was to go wrong, it would just be this cloud that would suffocate life and grass and trees and potentially people within that radius.
Like what happened to the dinosaurs?
What did happen to the dinosaurs? I always heard it was a meteor.
Well, nobody really knows for sure.
That's a good point.
So tell us the change. What's going on? Because I want to be protected.
All right. So when you go through the process of creating these carbon sequestration projects, the way it worked for Wabash Valley Resources was they got something called a Class 6 permit from the federal EPA. And this basically was a permit that the EPA looked at the project, said, okay, we think it's safe for the environment. We think it poses a low risk for the society around it. We're going to go ahead and give you this permit to continue with the project. Now, I've been covering this for a while. It took a long time for this Class 6 permit to be approved. It took a long time for this project to really start picking up some speed. And I still don't even really know where it stands because it's kind of, you just got to wait and see when they say something. So this new law, which is House Enrolled Act 1368, changes the entire way that this works. The way that House Enrolled 1368 will work is the Indiana DNR, before these projects start, will go to the federal EPA and request something called primacy, which means the EPA will essentially relinquish permitting control of these projects to the Indiana DNR. And so then the Indiana DNR will be the ones responsible for looking at the projects, evaluating potential safety concerns, evaluating where they would go, evaluating potential impacts on the environment, making sure they're feasible for the area. And then once they've kind of checked those boxes, they will then assign the permit.
Primacy. It sounds like a Rob Zombie movie. It seems like it's going to go very bad for me.
Well, it's this primacy is kind of a big topic in this thing. Whether it's land privacy, permitting primacy, it's all primacy is the word of the day as it relates to these projects.
Before we let you go, I interviewed your mayor a couple weeks ago. And I got to say, and I hate this, I kind of like him. I kind of like Sack Bun. What's he seems like a guy that could be on the ascend for the Democrat Party. You cover him all the time. What say you?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely, he's definitely someone that I, from conversations with Democrats of various levels of importance in the state, have agreed that, he's a mover and a shaker, and he's someone to keep an eye out for. I think as a relative newcomer to the Terre Haute community, I will say it does seem like he is focused on improving the area, and I'm enjoying covering what he's doing. So.
Men want to be him. Women want to be with him. He's the most beautiful man in all of Terre Haute television. The great Ben Verbanic. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, you're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Are you seeing cracks in mortar, moisture working through walls, facade or structural failure beginning to surface? Bramwell-McKay sets the standard for exterior and structural building solutions. Our 40-year master masons and industry experts address moisture intrusion, failing foundations, masonry deterioration, and more. From preserving historic landmarks to addressing modern building envelope issues, Bramwell-McKay delivers full-spectrum service with white-glove professionalism. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My two major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Your bathroom fan could be secretly costing you thousands of dollars in damages. Most people don't even know this until the damage is done. With over 18 years of bathroom remodeling experience, here are 3 signs your fan is failing you without spending a dime on inspections. Sign number 1 is if you have foggy mirrors after you shower. This shows that your fan isn't pulling out enough moisture, which creates the perfect environment for mold. If you have a properly functioning bathroom fan that is the right size for your space, you shouldn't see much fogginess on your bathroom mirror at all. Sign number 2 is if you have bubbling, cracking, or peeling paint in your bathroom. This means moisture is soaking into your walls, slowly breaking down drywall, and even causing the wood framing behind it to rot. Sign number 3 is if you have mold buildup on your fan, ceilings, or walls. This is terrible for your health, but also could wreck your bathroom, costing you a fortune. If you're noticing any of these signs, here's what you can do.
Call Vent Savvy today at 317-300-4434. That's 317-300-4434 and mention Rob for a free attic inspection.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message. Paid for by Linda Cheesem.
Hey guys, welcome back. Rob Kendall Show. If you haven't yet, help us out. Hit that little thumbs up. It's such a small ask. A little like button there. If you're watching us live on the YouTube, that really helps us grow the program. Also, subscribe to the channel every day. We need to see that count go up. And last but certainly not least, share the feed. Let people know you are watching Rob Kendall Show. And if you're feeling super generous, if you're like, you know what, I just have too much money in my bank account, we have a support button over at robkendallshow.com, robkendallshow.com. Every day there's generous people who say, love what you do, let me be a part of the team. Hit that support button and give over there at robkendallshow.com. $1, $10, however many shekels you find laying around. By the way, I found I didn't find, my wife found, and her mother found a euro the other day. You ever go through your quarters? See, so like if there's mistakes that have been made, they found €1 the other day. That's worth $2 American. However many euros? Maybe you got some extra euros laying around. RobKendallShow.com. Hey, here's something most homeowners don't realize. A lot of bathroom exhaust fans were installed wrong from day one. Either they're undersized for the room or they're not vented properly to the outside. That means shower moisture isn't actually leaving your house. It's getting pushed into your attic or trapped in the ceiling. Over time, it leads to mold, damaged insulation, costly repairs. That's why you got to call Vent Savvy. Here's what you do. You go to ventsavvy.com, VENTSAVVY.com, VENTSAVVY.com. Tell them, say, hey, heard about you on Rob's show. John, the owner, is going to come out to your house totally free of charge. No hassle, no obligation, no nothing. He's just going to come out, take a look at what you got going on, and then he's going to crawl into your attic, see what's up there. He'll let you know. If he finds nothing, hey, nice to meet you. Have a good day. If he finds something, though, he's going to tell you about it, and you can make the choice on where to go next. You got nothing in it other than finding out what's going on in your attic. Vent Savvy, VENTSAVVY.com. Tell him you heard about him on our show. Okay, it's time for everybody's favorite portion of the day, where we read your best comments. The effort you've put forward gets rewarded. Here's how it works. In order to be a commenter on the YouTube, you have to be a subscriber. That's our incentive. That's the carrot, that you got to be a subscriber to the channel in order to comment. And then producer Jason, he's monitoring all throughout the show. And then it's his time to shine, reading some of his favorite comments of the day. Hello.
How we doing, Rob?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Ready for the chat?
Let's do it.
All right. Brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John Black Sheep Plumbing, 765-315-7558, 765-315-7558. Black Sheep Plumbing.
Very
All
good.
right, let's get to it. Mr. Beckwith. Good morning, Rob, producer Jason, as well as Tom. That would be Lobianco. Very eager to hear Tom's take on current state of Indiana's government. Well, hopefully you were happy with Tom's take, Mr. Beckwith.
You know, when you get done hearing that interview, you're like, how could everybody's just quiet in the State House about this? Like, everybody knows this stuff is going on, and it's a total indictment on just what a piece of human garbage Braun is, that he knows Beckwith is one step in a well by Braun away from Beckwith running the state, and nobody, Rokita, Diego, the General Assembly, we all just treat like this behavior is just freaking normal, and it's just disgusting.
Crazy. Aaron Javli, a new one. That's not how you pronounce that, but what's up, America? Looking forward to hearing from Tom Lobianco. 24 site, that would be Tom at 24 site. Yo, this bass line on the intro.
Tom was in the chat today.
Yeah.
I love that Tom was in the chat today while the interview was airing, going back and forth with the people in the YouTube chat. That's great. I wish more of our guests would do that.
Referring to the bass line in the 10-minute countdown, that's where we play the music. Everybody seems to enjoy that, so we keep that rolling. Drain the Swamp, love the shirt. Thanks, Mom.
My mom, so you'll love this. My mom, now most of you know this, my mom, she irons all my shirts, washes and irons all my shirts once a week. That's why it looks so nice. She brought him over yesterday. And she's like, my mom said, she's like, I know you're watching your golf. I don't want to interrupt you, but I have your shirts. I was like, I can just get it tomorrow. No, I've got new shirts for you. So this is one of the new shirts that my mom got me. It looks very fabulous.
There we go. And that leads us right into Thomas Ho at producer Jason. Don't let Rob spend too much time talking about the Masters. You've spent no time other than that last 30 seconds there.
I got it right. Sunday bet, that was free money on McIlroy. I can't believe they had him at plus 188. That was free money. That was McIlroy made $4.5 million. I made $20.
All right.
Both left happy.
All right. Nobody really cares, but Drew asked, did Sergio Garcia really get a lifetime ban from Augusta?
No, Sergio has not been banned from the Masters.
All right. Nobody cares. Let's see. Although I did, for like the first time I watched some of the end there. That was actually pretty interesting. So didn't have any paint to watch dry, so I watched the end of the Masters.
Have you ever been to a golf course? Like, have you ever played golf?
I played long ago. I tried, and it wasn't my thing.
Doesn't seem like something you would like.
I don't understand the hours you spend out there on the. There's so many other things that could be done during that time.
Well, that's why I started just watching it, because they're way better than me, and it's a lot cheaper, and I still get the same amount of enjoyment.
I think a lot of guys watch watch golf because they think, I could probably do that if I just really practiced. I could probably do that, even though I have no physical means whatsoever to make that happen.
I think it was Ben Hogan and Ted Williams had a great back and forth. Ben Hogan's one of the greatest golfers of all time. Ted Williams, one of the greatest baseball players of all time. This probably would have been in the 40s or 50s, and they were talking about their sports. And Williams goes, your sport is so easy. You just put that little ball, just sits up there in the tee, and you hit it. I got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming at me. And I think it was Hogan said, yeah, but when we hit them foul, we got to play them.
Right. I think golf would be a little more.
Golf is the hardest.
It would be incredible because just every time you got to swing that, you got all those pars. You got to swing. Every time you swing, it's like shooting a free throw with no time on the clock. You win if you hit it. You lose if you don't. I mean, just the stress on that. I
always said auto racing is the hardest sport because you could die if you do something wrong. And
they don't die in racing anymore. That's the most boring sport. That's even worse than golf.
Well, you used to be really into NASCAR, didn't you?
No, never. My brother was. So I would go and do the spin, and I just couldn't wait till I get home.
I remember that. Yeah.
Let's see. We had a good line here. Where did it go? Don B. At least Rob's mom doesn't dress him funny. Kudos to Mom for picking out the adult shirts there for Rob. All right. We want wine.
That's what somebody said.
New one. Wine? We want wine. 1996. It's been 30 years ago. Is 30-year-old wine good, or is that considered a thing?
On the type of wine. I'm not a wine connoisseur.
I know like bourbon, the older it is, the better. I don't drink wine either. Dude, where did you come from? I see you all over YouTube and had to check it out. Hooked and added you to my podcast rotation.
Oh, thank you.
You should be on local radio.
No, they didn't say that.
It's right there in print. Drew replied, he was on local radio. Got fired. Paul Kitchen. Everyone who was ever in media got fired at some point.
Yeah.
Lucas Nataras. Radio is a step backwards. Drew. Dude, no shame in getting fired. So we've covered that.
Yes, I was for many years, for those of you who are new to our program, which thank you. I love wine, or I want wine. I want wine. Yeah. Yes,
we want wine.
We want wine.
Yes.
I had a number one rated radio show for the better part of 5.5 years, and then one day I had the audacity to ask to have my contract updated and was told to get lost. You can read about it; it's all in the news.
Yeah. Rob didn't leave; he got fired. Everybody, make sure we know that.
I was told to get out of here.
There we go. The Lobianco interview. I thought it was a very good interview.
Yeah.
Got a lot of information there. Kind of packaged everything in one shot. However, Ann Matlock, I'm sorry, but so far this guy hasn't told me anything I didn't already know. And Steve Green with an E, agree, Ann. But then we had the reply from @24site, which is Tom Lobianco. Oh, wow, like you guys already had all this on the grand jury and Life Church? Serious question. I've been working the hell out of this story for months. Josh Richardson, you're doing great, Tom. Really enjoy your reporting.
I love that he got in there and was going back and forth with the chat. I wish all our guests would do that.
That was good, yeah. And Matlock back in again, maybe so. However, I thought he was going to drop a new tidbit or update today. Guess not. Did we get a new tidbit from Tom today?
He went into the body cam footage, what's on there. I mean, look, part of the reason on this is that I would have somebody like him on is because I talk about this stuff a lot.
Right,
and I think I don't want people thinking, well, Rob's got some vendetta, Rob's just making this up, or whatever, right? I mean, I think there's an affirmation that clearly there were very serious allegations made against the lieutenant governor's office related to the AI porn, related to ghost employment. There appear to be some sort of investigation still ongoing. I thought on the heels of the Kleinhelter stuff, which nobody saw coming. Look, this is the number 2 guy in the state. This isn't even some low-level state. I mean, look, Kleinhelter, for whatever I want to say, but he's a county sheriff. He doesn't have any control over you unless you live in Du Bois County. We're talking about the number 2 guy in our state, and the state house just wants to act like this isn't going on or wasn't going on. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous that nobody in that state house will stand up and demand answers.
Vic Ferrari, tennis is 100 times harder than golf.
I don't know. I don't think so.
That's a lot of work, tennis. I couldn't do that either. All right, let's continue on. Josh Richardson. Ryan White.
Ryan White.
Now,
yes.
I went to Hamilton Heights High School.
That's right, you did.
Ryan White was a little younger than me by maybe 10 years, something like that. But I went to Hamilton Heights High School. Ryan White went to Hamilton Heights High School. I forget what high school Ryan White went to before Hamilton Heights, but the one he went to before
Western.
Well,
he didn't go to. I think it was a middle school.
I thought it was like Lawrence or something, but maybe not.
It was Western because he lived out in Rushville. Yeah.
He was treated very poorly, very badly, and of course when he went to Hamilton Heights High School up in Arcadia, they opened their arms, they welcomed him in, and the whole community was behind him, and that was very, very heart.
Now the reason, in case people missed earlier in the show, is the anniversary of Ryan White's funeral. April 11th was his funeral, and so I wanted.
What year?
It's 90 or 91. I can't remember if it was 90 or 91.
Okay. All right. Josh Richardson says, I was in elementary school when this was all going on. I remember how even as a kid, this had such an impact on me. Robert Schwartz. One thing about this show, though I may not always agree with the views, it stays on topic and gives us food for thought.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
All right, back to Ryan. Robert Schwartz adds, I was in my 20s or 30s when AIDS was a scary thing, especially if you were single. Yeah, I remember that time period. It was, you just, the fun-loving days were gone and everything was...
Well, that's I think you come back to, we talked about...
It didn't stop us, but you had to be careful.
Well, this is the thing. I think that when you come back to Ryan White and his importance, there were so many celebrities who had it, who kind of hid it, and Ryan White, who wasn't a celebrity when it started, but he certainly became a celebrity who fully embraced it, and he became a celebrity because he fully embraced something that he had to deal with. Him and Magic Johnson, I think the education of the public, and then the government started getting involved funding research to tackle AIDS and HIV. I just think there's literally probably millions of people who are alive today or lived much longer lives because of Ryan White.
And Debbie Holcomb, Ryan's mom is amazing, raising him to be so bold and supporting him in every aspect of life. And Matlock, they had an exhibit at the Children's Museum about him. They had his school locker there where kids wrote horrible things on it. I cried when I saw that. That would not have been at Hamilton Heights High School.
That's right.
That would have been before that.
The Hamilton Heights people were, by all accounts, very welcoming to Ryan.
All right. Charles Ludi. I think that's the first time I've actually pronounced Charles's name correct. I like Charles Sluty, but it's, I believe, Charles Ludi. I'm not a Hoosier, so this man's story is new to me. Lucas Notaris, Ryan White is a psyop.
He's a what?
A psyop. Look how ingrained it is in all of you. Wake up, people.
So psyop is what, some sort of government operative designed or willing or otherwise designed to get people to...
The only thing I could think is maybe he's saying, or she is saying, well, Lucas is probably a man, that maybe they planted Ryan to make everybody accept AIDS or not look at it as an evil thing because, of course, it had its connotations to it and things like that.
Ryan, and I appreciate everybody.
I don't agree, but I mean, that's I
appreciate everybody.
Lucas has this thing. I mean, people think we're not going to the moon either. So I mean, I don't know. I would say there's an argument to be made that maybe back in the 60s you could have said, okay, maybe they faked all that. But technology today, people would figure it out real quick. I mean, people can look at AI and say that's AI without question. So they would know if the moon, not that we're talking about the moon landing, but, people think the government,
look, the government does
sets these things up.
But Ryan, like if you were going to make somebody the face of AIDS and HIV, and by the way, all Ryan White did as a result of his disease was make people's lives better and educate people about it. AIDS was clearly very real. It has killed millions of people. Look, I'm appreciative of everybody who watches our show, but Ryan White was a victim of a blood transfusion. I mean, they know exactly how he got it. And I just think that really demeans what Ryan White did or what he went through to say he was anything other than a national hero, and everybody should learn as much about Ryan, not just because he had this disease, but how he lived his life and what he did for the public.
And we'll leave the chat today with Mick Levins, who said, Rob, I believe Ryan's family would be honored for what you just did for Ryan.
You know what we ought to do? And I tried to do this in 2016. By the way, we can get those interviews posted up.
We'll get it figured out. Yeah.
I was not able to get Ryan's mother in 2016. I really wanted to do that, and life got busy. She is still alive, is my understanding. And so we may try to see if we can find her and reach out to her, because I think everything we can do to keep Ryan's memory alive, we should do it. Producer Jason, thank you.
Thank you. This chat brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. Give them a call, 765-315-7558.
Producer Jason, great job as always.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. Buying a home is the biggest investment you'll ever make, but it's about so much more than just a price tag. It's about your next chapter. When you work with Lauren Wilson, her goal is to make sure you feel 100% confident in every decision you make. Lauren Wilson, Hoosier lifer, Central Indiana, military vet, and she would love to be with you every step of the way. Now, look, you guys know, unless you're just like me and you just live the same place forever and ever and ever, you're going to need a real estate professional at some point. And so go get to know Lauren Wilson. Even if you're not in the buying or selling need right this moment. I know somebody the other day who called her who told me about that and said, boy, it's great to talk to her, get to know her. When I need that, I'm going to use her. So whether you're in the market for buying or selling a home right now or not, get that person in your corner. Lauren Wilson with At Properties. Call her for your next move. 317-590-2290. 317-590-2290. Lauren Wilson with At Properties. Okay, one other thing I wanted to touch on today before we call it a day. Where is this story? Here we go. So much news. It's like you have to have more stories than you know you're going to need. That's the biggest conundrum of the life that I live. I know I'm going to have more stories than what I need. Okay, so I saw this. WTHR had the article. It was from yesterday or over the weekend. Marlon Stutzman, who is a U.S. rep from the 3rd Congressional District. So Marlon Stutzman was in Congress. He was very conservative the first time he was in Congress. He ran for U.S. Senate. He represents the Fort Wayne area. He gave up his seat to run for Senate. He ran against Todd Young. He got smoked by Todd Young. That is when Holcomb was running and was dead last and was pulling votes from Young. And then conveniently they got Holcomb out of the race and he became lieutenant governor. And then Young got an unimpeded path to be running against Stutzman for U.S. Senate. But and now Marlon Stutzman has gone back to Congress. He is not nearly as conservative as he was the first time. You know, Marlon's a sad story because Marlon's an ass kisser now. And Marlon is one of these people who, when you see how they were there the first time, you think, oh, great, that guy's going back. Somebody will be a voice for the people. And Marlon, sadly, has become a guy who wants to be in office. And as a result of wanting to be in office, he believes, like many Republicans do now, representing Trump and smooching Trump's butt cheeks rather than fighting for you is the way to do it. And so Marlon voted for all that spending. He's a Republican. Yes, man. Now it's really sad because Marlon used to be a pretty good guy, a pretty tough guy, but he's a joke now. Anyway, he was asked about Indiana suspending the gas tax. And I thought this was hilarious because he came out in support of Indiana suspending the gas tax, or the tax on gas that Braun did the other day. And he's like, oh, this is great. We should be doing this. And so he got asked about, well, hey, tough guy, the Democrats in Congress have proposed suspending the federal gas tax. Why don't you guys lead by example? And why don't you guys suspend yours? And he said, nah, no dice. So you're totally in support of Indiana suspending its tax on gas because we admit that Hoosiers are getting crushed at the pump. We admit gas is totally unaffordable thanks to the Republican president and his invasion of Iran. And then you come out in support of Indiana making its gas tax lower, or its taxes on gas lower. And so somebody says, well, hey, Mr. Congressman, y'all got a role in this too. The federal gas tax is 18 cents per gallon. And the Democrats have said, hey, we'll play ball. Why don't we suspend the gas tax too? And he goes, nah. Here's his quote. What a big fat phony. Quote, Washington doesn't have a surplus like Indiana, Stutzman said. So I think Governor Braun has more flexibility because he has his budget in balance. Yes, idiot. The Indiana has to balance its budget. States have to balance their budget. They can't print money. The federal government, Marlon, brought in basically $5.25 trillion last year. Do you guys realize that? That's how much money the federal government brought in. $5.25 trillion. And they can't balance their budget. Marlon, who voted for the big bullcrap spending bill that adds $5 trillion to the debt. So Yeah, you states, you should totally suspend your gas tax because you guys have your budgets balanced. But us, who brought in $5 trillion, by the way, they spent $7 trillion last year. $7 trillion. Marlon Stutzman says you should go F yourself when it comes to dealing with the feds because we can't manage our money. But those states, because they have to, because they can't print money, well, they should absolutely suspend these people in Washington. They're just the worst. And it makes me so sad. So sad what has become of Marlon Stutzman because he used to be a pretty decent guy. All right, hey, masonry color mismatch, previous repair catching your eye, not happy with the brick color on your home and ready for a total makeover? Bramwell Mackay Property Services and Consultants offer specialized masonry staining and recoloring. Whether you want to seamlessly blend repairs or completely transform your home's exterior, want to build something new? Bramwell Mackay's 40-year master masons design and construct custom patios, sidewalks, outdoor summer kitchens, archways, entryways, and more. Bramwell Mackay, BRAMWELLMCKAY, beauty built to endure. All right, we got a big show coming up for you guys tomorrow. We got David Shelton, who's running for Secretary of State. He's going to be with us to talk about that race and make the case for why the Republicans should dump Diego. And we're scheduled, this is going to be a fun one, the coach, Dan Dockich of Outkick. He's going to be with us tomorrow as well. You guys have been a phenomenal audience today. Please remember, like, share, and subscribe to our feed. Producer Jason, awesome job. And we will see you tomorrow. You've been watching Rob Kendall Show.